Hi there, I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I have Afshan Ipsen. Welcome to the show, Afshan.
Hey, it's good to be here. I know it took a while, but here we are.
It's fine, they say patience is a virtue, so obviously, you being patient with me shows that it's your virtue.
I was gonna say it's the other way around, but I'll take it. I'll take a compliment.
Yeah, I'm the host of the show, so I gave the compliment out rather than take it for myself. It works well. So, viewers who are watching this might wonder why I have the background that I have, which is obviously of Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And there's a very specific reason, because I understand that you enjoy watching true crime series, and obviously Sherlock Holmes is the most famous detective. So can you tell us a bit about how you got into watching true crime series and what you enjoy so much about them?
I can't explain how I got into it, to be fair. It's been a long-standing thing. I don't know where it started. I think it was just a random documentary that I watched and then I got hooked. I think it was quite literally I came across something innocently and that was good. And I just find it fascinating. It's that morbid fascination that I think a lot of people share. It's where you're just thinking, how did somebody stoop to that level where they've actually gone ahead and committed that crime? And it used to be all about serial killers, so what I like to call flips. They're people that you don't expect humanity to produce, but they're there. And they're kind of flips in humanity. So I find that really fascinating. And then they moved on to well, court cases. Now I'm listening to, I fully listen to, binge listen to this podcast run by these two fabulous American women. And it's all about court cases. So it touches all of like the really bad, like horrible, violent crimes, but at the same time, it touches really funny court cases, like the woman who sued McDonald's because they gave a coffee that was too hot. And you just walk through and you just think, how is this a court case? But I do enjoy it. It's just a morbid fascination.
But in America, things do work slightly differently to the UK. Occasionally, there is less common sense, for instance, that, if somebody's giving you a hot drink, you should be careful.
Yeah. But then again, when you listen to that podcast, that particular one, that was my first thought as well. And it turns out that actually McDonald's genuinely did serve really hot coffee when you had like really bad third-degree burns. So if I was in that place, I would sue as well. So I fully got it after they went into so much detail. You have to
Yeah.
listen to it to realize how bad it can get.
Yep, that is true. I do know the details of that case, and McDonald's were indeed heating the coffee to be too hot, which is why it did what it did. But yes, there's that. So you say you like true crime and stuff. What about fictitious crime? I mean, I happen to be thinking of the TV show Dexter, which I watched massively when I was slightly younger. Is that ever sort of thing ever interested you, or is it just the true stuff?
I mean, I did watch Dexter, and I did watch it from about season one, like three or four, I think, before it got a bit upset. It was definitely absurd. It just got ridiculous. It kind of just became like a cartoon of itself. But that's when I realized that actually, if you watch something that's trying to be quite in your face and gory, then it just gets out of hand. But then the true crime stuff is just because it's true, it hits the memory like, whoa, that actually happened. So I think I do prefer more true crime documentaries. Dramatization of true crime as well. That also works. That's quite good.
Okay. So what's been your most famous true crime thing then, say in the last year or two?
Nice. As in the a case or
Okay, so something you watched, but I mean, the McDonald's thing is not true crime in essence. It's a legal situation, not so much a crime in a regular
oh,
sort of thing.
there was that one recently, wasn't there? That happened maybe a year ago. I can't remember its name, but it was that American man who basically killed his entire family because he was having an affair. And you think that'd be kind of like, oh, that's just that's normal serial killer almost. But he basically killed his family. Then he pretended on air that they'd been kidnapped or they were missing, and every single person who watched his interview just outright said he's lying. Anything, everything, his demeanor, the way he was talking, his face, everything was like, yeah, he's lying. To the point, even the police and all of the media people were like, yeah, he's lying. He does not want his wife and children to come home. And that's when they started looking into him, and it realized that he had actually sold them, drove them away, and put them down some sort of oil barrels in the middle of nowhere, which was quite actually. That was a bad one. And that's, I think, because it was so recent. I, whenever you listen to true crime, you think of old stuff, but that was recent, which is why I
Yeah.
was so surprised. Like, how can it still happen? Why do people still do these? Just divorce your wife and move on. Why was that so hard?
Some people find it easier, I guess, not to just divorce and move on.
Clearly, it's easier to take a life rather than just sign a piece of paper and move on. But
Yeah. Logic
yeah,
escapes even the best of us at times.
yeah,
So,
that one.
have you ever considered going, do you have an interest in not just to find out what's going on, but with the detective side to work out what's happening? Could you see yourself becoming a detective and investigating these sorts of things?
No, I don't want that pressure. That's just too much. I like reading about it. And I've realized that I hate those there's like those documentaries about unsolved mysteries, unsolved crimes, like
Yeah.
kidnapping that never solved. I hate watching those. Genuinely hate it. I hate not knowing what's happened. I don't like the fact that there is still a crime that people are still looking into. All of the cold cases is not. And the amount of pressure that could be on a person and the stress that you have, I still get anxiety about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that case that I heard the other day about that unsolved kidnapping. What happened with that? And it's really stressful. So I don't ever want to be on that side of things. I like just to be an outside viewer with a morbid fascination.
Got it. Interesting. So, moving on from true crimes and the morbid fascination with them to the oops factor, what do you have to share with us?
So I did give this some thought, like I said a bit earlier, and I think my oops factor was all about this time last year. I think I was in the middle of having to job hunt out of the blue in a situation that I wasn't expecting myself to be in because I thought I had found myself a new job. I was going to move on and it was going to be amazing and I would have been in a different job and I would have been being onboarded right now and I'd be in a different company, different team. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, that didn't happen. I know I'm not the only person that applied for a job and then lost their job because of COVID. I know a lot of people, a lot of companies panicked this time last year, but just the way that it happened, it felt quite rash and it just wasn't the best situation to find yourself in when you always think that that's never going to happen to me, but then it did happen to me. And yeah, that was quite stressful.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So, what do you think you might have been able to do slightly better? I mean, was it that the company you were in, you were left it or so, or that they decided to downsize and therefore you had to look for something very quickly, or
It was a bit odd. I realized that I had never considered how volatile a company could be if their entire income and the way that the company set up and the amount of people that they hire, that the amount of people they make redundant, even for example, is completely and utterly based on the amount of projects that they win externally. And I think that's the first time I felt that actually I'm in a role where if you don't have takers for it, then the role doesn't really necessarily exist. And that happened. And I think because of the pandemic, obviously, I was supposed to join another Microsoft partner and I was supposed to be tech consultant working with Microsoft because that's the niche that I found myself in. And because of COVID, they had they did really have a nice healthy pipeline. They'd won tons and tons of projects. But all of these companies then turned around and said, actually, we're going to concentrate on our main job, which, for example, is making hospital beds. That's the current
right?
priority. So keep our people away. So this is now going on hold. Another company, I think, did something along the lines of making some, I can't remember what they were making, but they basically turned around and said, no, we're going to help make ventilators because of COVID. So we're going to put this project on hold and pull all of our people onto that. So they slowly lost all of the customers. I mean, they didn't lose them, just all went on hold. And that meant
Everything got
that,
delayed. I mean, it happened generally across the tech sector.
yeah. And I think the tech sector was probably the one that got hit the hardest. So there was a lot of people in my position. And it was just a bit weird. It was like they first said to me, we're going to just delay your onboarding for a week. A week goes by and they're like, no, we're going to do it for a month. A month goes by and then we're going to do it for 3 months. Then it was 6 months and then it was never. So as that was happening, I was trying to find a new job at the same time, like scrambling around. And I was still in tech and I would forever remain in tech. I like being in tech. But having to find that new job out of the blue, the amount of job applications that I wrote, having to redo my CV for like hundreds of companies, that was not the best place to be in. And I wouldn't recommend that on anybody. It's hard to just scramble to find a job. And I also didn't like the fact that my husband was the sole like bread earner in the family. I didn't like feeling dependent on him. I was like, no way, I'm a strong, independent woman. That's what I've said to myself, God, for I don't know how long. And now you're the person who's only earning. So I needed to change that really quickly. I needed to bring that balance back into our relationship. So that kind of spurred me on. But yeah, that was fun.
That definitely sounds intense. And I know that you were going through it at the time, and I know others who are going through it as well. So at times like that, what do you say? What would you recommend is the best approach for people who are, in difficult situations for themselves and in general around them and trying to find something? What advice would you give them?
And that's really, and I think it's probably from like a religious perspective as well. I'm not very religious. I'm not like fanatical about religion, but I do have like a mindfulness about religion. So I do take that into my personality. And I always say that everything happens for a reason, that at
Yeah.
some point, sometime, maybe not then, like at that moment in time, but give me a year, give me maybe even 5 years, but I will look back at that time and think, okay, now I know why that happened. Now I know exactly why that happened. And it's just patience. It's just knowing that everything happened for a reason. So back then, the only thing that I was telling myself was, this is temporary. I'm looking for a job. I will come out of this. Everything happens for a reason. I might be dodging a bullet for all I know. There could be another job that's waiting for me. And now looking back at it, a year later, I literally did dodge a bullet. This was like a blessing in disguise almost, because I'm in a better company, I'm in a better team, I'm being paid better, so that worked out quite well.
It's always nice to be paid better. Yeah, know that one well.
But I think that's the advice that I'd give, is just, it's patience. It's just to know that the situation you're in, it is temporary, and if you work at it, you will come out of it, and you'll come out of it shining, because everything happens for a reason. And you may not know it then, but you will know in like a year, even a month sometimes. It only takes a little while to figure out why that even happened, but you'll figure out why it happened. And it
Yeah,
does happen.
it's true. I mean, it's the benefit of hindsight. Leaving aside some people not religious, but the benefit of hindsight, you can see, you can analyze it. When you're going through it, you've got that logical side, but you've also got that emotional side. And especially, if your relationship, you've got people dependent on you, and it's very difficult to put that to one side and try and power through it.
No, that's very true. And honestly, all of that, very, very true. I think with me, it was a bit easier because, like I said, I didn't have anyone depending on me. And if I did, I think it would have been a lot harder. It would have probably been a lot harder to be as optimistic as I was trying to be back then, because I didn't want to be so down about it. Knowing it was happening to so many people, it didn't help that it was happening to me as well. I was like, no, I'm not the only person. I will find my way out. Other people will find their way out. So I can't do that to myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And but if I had dependents, that would be so much more harder. So my
Yeah.
heart does part for those people who have to go through it with an entire family depending on them. It would not have been easy.
No, it's not easy to be, people like that. So when you landed and such, did you then take your husband out for dinner?
We were in the middle of a pandemic. I wish I did. I remember.
Okay. Are you planning on when everything reopens shortly and stuff? Are you planning on taking him out to dinner then?
No. We ordered like the biggest takeaway we possibly could when I got my first paycheck. So I count that as my celebratory winner.
That works. That works. I've done similar when I've moved role and stuff and done that. Pay first paycheck comes in, got sushi and myself and my wife and stuff. Yeah, have a sushi evening. So yeah.
To be fair, things are opening up now in the UK, so I might take that advice and actually be like, look, I said I was a strong independent woman. I'm going to prove I'm a strong independent woman, and I'm going to pay the check wherever we go. Could be KFC, could be some 5-star restaurant, for all we know. Haven't decided yet.
Sounds like an idea. Brilliant. Well, Afshan, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. I know it's not been easy along the way, but I think it's definitely a message of hope and inspiration to people, that even in very difficult times, to get through it and that they look back on it and see, as you say, dodging bullets and stuff without realizing. So really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for persisting, because definitely loved coming on. So thank you.
It was a pleasure. Viewers, we hope that you've enjoyed and learned something useful and inspirational from this episode. Feel free to check out the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come on the show and share your own story of something that's gone wrong at some point and lessons learned from it, or messages of inspiration as well, feel free to hit the link in the description, fill in your details, and I'll drop you a line to get you on the show. Have a great day.